I never wanted to do real estate or be an entrepreneur. I just wanted to play baseball. I did that my whole life. I was fortunate enough to get drafted by the Oakland A's. You know, I was on the dream, but the dream only allowed you to make $1,200 a month while you're pursuing it. Unfortunately for me, I never got to the big leagues. You know, I played 8 seasons professionally, never making more than like $1,500 a month. I started flipping couches and furniture, made money doing that, eventually started flipping houses, maxed out all my credit cards to do my first deal. It was a different ballgame, man. Like I was truly like forced to go all in to figure it out. That flip turned into 2 flips, that turned into 4, and since then I think we flipped over 700 homes.
You've been in business for 5 years,
Yeah.
right? Without social media, like, do you really believe that you could have gotten that
Heck
many doors
no.
to open?
No way.
Yeah. Can anybody do what you did? You were talking to the whole world right now. The whole world could hear you. One thing you've learned in your life, what would that thing be?
I need Jesus.
Welcome back to another episode of the Austin Zaback Show. Today we have somebody who doesn't need an introduction, somebody you've probably seen on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and every other social media platform out there. The man, the myth, Ryan Pineda. I appreciate you being here, brother.
Yeah, man, thanks for having me. Beautiful new set. The office is beautiful, man. Congrats on all the success and the expansion.
I appreciate it, man. Yeah, you're the first person that we've interviewed in this set.
Dude, there we go. I was Steve Trank's first new guest on his new set, too.
There you go. So hopefully we have no technical difficulties. We got like backups on backups over there.
There we go.
'Cause
I got a
we wanted to
mic
make
on. We'll be good.
I love it, dude. Well, dude, you know, for somebody out there who, for whatever reason, they haven't heard of you, right? Just give me the very quick elevator pitch from, you know, minor league baseball. I've watched a lot of your content, right? To couch flipping, to house flipping, to serial entrepreneur.
Yeah.
You know, talk to me about that journey, just the quick version of it.
Yeah, the quick version was I never wanted to do real estate or be an entrepreneur. I just wanted to play baseball. So, you know, I did that my whole life. I was fortunate enough to get drafted by the Oakland A's. I actually spent a lot of time here in Phoenix in spring training. And, you know, I was on the dream, but the dream only allowed you to make $1,200 a month while you're pursuing it. And unfortunately for me, I never got to the big leagues. You know, I played 8 seasons professionally, never making more than like $1,500 a month. And so I was forced into entrepreneurship. And part of that journey was me getting my real estate license in 2010. So I've been in real estate now for almost 15 years and got into the investing game about 10 years ago. You know, you talked about flipping couches. Like along that journey, I started flipping couches and furniture, things like this. Like I look at this couch and I'm like, man, I wonder what I could sell it for.
Probably quite a bit.
Quite a bit.
Yeah.
You know, and, you know, I flipped couches, made money doing that, eventually started flipping houses, maxed out all my credit cards to do my first deal.
Yeah.
I didn't really know about wholesaling. So it was a different ballgame, man. Like I was truly like forced to go all in to figure it out. And thankfully it did, you know, that one flip worked out. I made 25 grand. That flip turned into 2 flips that turned into 4. And, you know, since then, I think we flipped over 700 homes. You know, we've bought rentals, you know, we started a fund, we've bought hundreds of rentals and apartments, started lots of different businesses over the years. Some great, some not great. And yeah, like you said, I've just been a serial entrepreneur, always trying new things, always just trying to be innovative, trying to just keep getting better at whatever I'm doing. And, you know, social media was part of that journey. You know, I got on social media around 2020 when COVID happened and really started to take it serious. And, you know, since then it exploded. And I never thought that it would be like where it is today, but it's led to lots of opportunities with so many amazing people. You know, I've interviewed pastors. Like I just got at Mark Driscoll's office, you know, you got Cardone's building across. I've spent a lot of time with Grant, you know, here with you today. I'm here with lots of different people. And it's just like, man, it's opened a lot of doors for business.
It's so cool, you know, thinking about the amount of doors that's open. I want to talk about that too in just a minute. Talking about house flipping really quick, right? Not very many people have flipped 700 homes, you know, and I'm just curious on that subject. Like, how did you scale that? I mean, like, you know, I flipped probably 15 in 2024. Yeah. And I want to rip the hair out of my head.
Yeah, that's a lot of work.
And I'm not even managing it, right? Like I'm like going there to film content. Yeah. But then when I go, you know, so like how did you scale that to such a large level? I mean, you had to have been doing 40 or 50 a month at one point.
Yeah. At the peak, I had 70 properties at once, you know, that were either bought and being renovated on the market, in escrow, whatever the case is. And so, you know, I mean, truthfully, I've kind of always been this way where I'm just like, yeah, whatever, like it doesn't really faze me. I would have my friends tell me like, bro, do you not get nervous about all these hard money payments and like all this stuff? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, what's the worst that can happen? Like, it doesn't work. So what? Like, I've never been afraid of failure. And I think that that's been a strong suit because I just came up in the world of baseball where if you fail 7 out of 10 times, you're legit. And so I've never been scared of failure or risk. But, yeah, I mean, we have good teams, good systems. I got good at raising money. I got good at managing crews, and we did it. But I'll tell you, today we mainly focus on wholesaling today, and part of that was because of interest rates and everything back in 22 when they doubled. I had 50 flips going on, and it's just like, all right, what's about to happen here? Well, what's about to happen here is I'm about to lose a couple $1,000,000, and that's what happened. And thankfully I had, other sources of income and rentals and different things. And so we were able to sell them and get the investors paid back. And I had to write checks, and that was painful, but it was a great learning experience. And it actually forced me to say, okay, at this point in my career, even though I've been like flipping the majority of properties we've ever put under contract, I would say up to that point, 80% plus of my deals I bought, I flipped.
Yeah.
But I said, you know what? At this point, I have other things going on. I don't need to put this big of a risk out there anymore. Have $20 million of hard money loans.
Sure.
And, so we started just mainly wholesaling. And it's been great. Like, it's just a much more scalable model. It's way less risky. It allows me to really even get better at marketing, which has been kind of my strong suit. And yeah, right now we're just wholesaling mainly.
Yeah.
We'll buy deals still, but like it's not a priority.
So look, if you're a wholesaler and you're wholesaling at least 1 to 2 deals a month and you're not using Investor Lift, I'm telling you right now, you are leaving a ton of money on the table as a wholesaler. The moment that me and my team got Investor Lift, we literally saw a 50% increase in the amount of deals that we started to sell. Investor Lift will give you access to over 5 million cash buyers throughout the nation. And I'm telling you right now, it is a tool that will change the game for your business, okay? So look, all you gotta do is click the link down below or it'll pop up on your screen right here. Make sure that when you book a call with Investor Lift that you mention my name so they give you a discount. Now let's just go ahead and get back to the show. I want to talk about that more in just a minute. Before we do, real quick, I'm just curious, and you haven't been on a lot of podcasts, so hopefully I can ask questions that other people will like too. Do you think that you were born the way that you were in terms of, like, are entrepreneurs born with it? I've asked a lot of entrepreneurs, like, you talk about not really being afraid to fail, or like, being a serial entrepreneur and just like being able to take on the risk, all of the attributes that a good entrepreneur has to have. Is that something you're born with, or can it be developed over time, in your opinion?
I think it's a mix of both, right? I think that there are people who are just born like not caring and just going full force. I think people are born a different way. I think that, a lot of your identity is developed at a young age. And so if your parents always told you, hey, don't do that, it's too risky, it's scary, play it safe, then that's just kind of how you're going to grow up. But it doesn't mean that you can't change. I think also a big part of why I am the way I am is just due to faith. I think that, just for me as a Christian, like the ending is already clear. So like whatever happens today is like such a small blip in the span of eternity that it's like, why am I tripping about this deal or this failure or what this person said? Like, I already know how the story ends. This is like just going to pass away here in the world of social media tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like the news cycle's tomorrow and it's already forgotten about, this failure is tomorrow. And then it's like, all right, what's next? So I think a lot of people get caught up, just concerned about things that, like, in the grand scheme of things, like you look back at your problems a year ago, you're like, oh yeah, I'm alive.
Yeah.
Like if you're alive, you have 100% success rate of recovering from failure.
So powerful. Yeah. We'll go there really quick. So I did want to talk about faith. So let's go there and then we'll come back to business in a minute. I'm a Christian, right? When did you, because I've been watching you since you got on content in 2020. I saw you on TikTok initially, right? And then obviously we have a lot of mutual friends. So over time, naturally you watch to see what other people are doing in the industry, right? You made a pivot at a certain point, and like you were always vocal about being a Christian, right? there was no question that like from day one when I saw you that you were like not like you were a Christian, right?
Yeah.
But then at one point you pivoted and you went all in on like faith, right? Which I think is like legit. I mean, very few entrepreneurs do that. Where did that decision come from? And then the other question is, did you grow up in a family of faith?
Yeah. So as far as the second part of that, yeah, I grew up in the church. Okay. So my parents, I've been in Sunday school ever since I could remember. So I got baptized when I was 18. I got married young with my wife. We've been married over 10 years now. So like faith was always a part of my life. And, I don't have this crazy story of like going to college and rebelling and, being stupid. Like it was just like the way you see me now today, where it's like, it seems like very disciplined and I've kind of always been that way. I was like, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to get married. I'm going to try and do things the right way. No one's perfect, but I'm going to try and do what God's calling me to do. And, here we are. Right. And it's funny because I always thought God was going to lead me down this path of stardom in baseball. And it was like, nope, I got other plans for you. And now you can see with hindsight, like, oh, this plan is way better than that plan. But, I would say as far as why did I get more bold the last couple years, I just think like I had an encounter this was in literally 2 years to the day, like April of 22, where I was at a conference. It was in Vegas, and it was a 2-day Christian conference for men. And at the end of the 2 days, like I just had this overwhelming sense of the Holy Spirit come on me. And I was like, holy crap, I've never felt this way. Like I'm not an emotional person. Like I'm very logical and strategical and, to the point. And it was like, I couldn't stop crying. And I just felt like this overwhelming sense of like God telling me like, dude, what are you using everything I gave you for? And that got further confirmed and amplified at my next event, where a girl came up to me and she was like, hey, Ryan, like I really look up to you as somebody who's a Christian and a business owner and someone who's bold, but I got a question for you. Who do you look up to? And I just started to think about it, and I was like, I look up to like pastors and others, but like as far as another entrepreneur who I feel like is like super bold and doing business and like someone I want to emulate, I was like, I can't say I look up to anybody that like is famous. Yeah. Like I know a lot of great Christian business owners, but they're not on social media. They're not known. And then it became crystal clear to me. And, this phrase that's now kind of defined like my ministry is like, if not you, then who? And that's what God was saying. And he was like, if not you, then who? Who's going to be the person to do it if you don't do it? And it kind of convicted me. And I was like, wow, yeah, if I don't do it, who else throws big events? Who has the influence and access to these people? Who's going to talk to Grant Cardone, and have the ability to do it and talk to him about faith? Yeah. Who's going to be bold on their podcast or whoever else and not care whether it affects the bottom line? And I was like, I have to do it. And so along with that, I was just on my own spiritual journey of like really getting even deeper in relationship with God. And it just kept opening more and more doors of strong Christian leaders that were pouring into me and helping me understand what I was going through. It also just so happened that during this time, I was about to walk into the biggest storm of my life because guess what? Real estate market's about to freaking flip upside down. Everybody's printing money, flipping houses. Everybody has money from COVID. And then all of a sudden that's about to switch the next. And, I didn't know at that time, but it was like, wow. I look at it now 2 years later and I'm like, there's no way I should have got through all these various storms. And yet here we are. And it's like, if I didn't choose to go that path and be obedient, I know for a fact there's no way I could have gotten through all of them.
Yeah. If you're tired of cold calling and you're looking for high quality seller leads delivered right to your inbox every single day, then look no further. Ryan Pineda just put together a company called Lead Kitchen, and all you got to do is click the link down in the description below, talk to Ryan and his team, and look at what they have going on. Okay, I'm telling you, this could change the industry. And I don't know about you, I've been wholesaling for over a decade now, and an inbound lead is always typically going to be significantly better than me trying to outbound cold call to get somebody to sell me their home. Okay, so again, click the link down below, talk to Ryan and his team, and see if Lead Kitchen can help you out. It's so powerful, dude. Why do you think more people don't speak up and be as bold as you? Because there are other Christian entrepreneurs that have big brands that you see kind of hide behind the curtain a little bit. I mean, they're not. Yeah. Is it they don't want to be judged? They don't want to get shadow banned on social media? Like what do you think the underlying thing is there?
Well, I think that there's a lot of different issues at play. One is maybe their past, right? Nobody's perfect. My freaking track record ain't perfect. And so I think that a lot of people feel like, oh, well, if I start talking about God, but I did this. And it's like, well, dude, go read about the people in the Bible. These dudes were jacked up. Okay. Did you kill anybody? Did you sleep with his wife? Did you the best people of the Bible have done way worse things than a business failure or a broken relationship or whatever, right? And so I think people are scared because of their past. And that's the whole point of why we have Jesus, is because our past doesn't define us, right? So I think that's one issue. I think a second issue is people have, and this is like the world of media, they have other factors at play that can kind of control them, So it's like, I was just with Mark Driscoll and he was talking about this. He's like, yeah, I mean, corporations have like shareholders and other things that stop them from doing things, even churches have denominations where, they're not necessarily in control of what the denomination wants to do, even if they may or may not agree with it. I recently had my Christian event. It was called the Kingdom Summit last week. We had almost 1,000 entrepreneurs there. It was an amazing event. One of my speakers, I won't say who, I made a political post about, I don't even remember what it was about. It was about something stupid. But, he was like, hey, dude, like, you can't really put that with the events. Like, I'm already having people reach out to me saying I should not do the event and, all this stuff. And I was like, wow, like, even you can't say what you want. And you're like super big, So it's just like, it's one of these things where I think a lot of people have just different things going on around them that prevent them, that they're fearful about. And it's like, that's the beauty of being an entrepreneur. It's like, if you own the business, you could do whatever you want. Yeah. If you lose a client, you lose a client. Whoop-de-doo, But if you literally like are employed by somebody who's oppressive or, you're afraid of getting shadow banned by YouTube or whatever, it's like, bro, who cares?
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree. No, I think that people need to, and I need to do a better job, of speaking up. And I've tried to post a lot about it over the years, but nothing like you, And I think I have felt that calling, before in my life to like, hey, get louder about it. And I think for me, it was like I hadn't yet figured out the trajectory of what that looked like, right? Yeah. Like, what does it practically look like on a day-to-day basis for me to get louder about it? Like you're throwing these big events and doing all of that, right? And but I love that. The last question I have on that, because I know people always get it confused in the Bible, right? But for you, how do you manage, being a serial entrepreneur? Because I do believe that is in a guy like yours blood. It's in my blood, right? Like we want to chase after the next challenge, right? Yeah. Not necessarily the money that comes with it, but that in lies the question of like, how do you balance, okay, God's number one, right? Because in the Bible, it says, the love of money, right? It's so like you can have money, but money can't have you. How do you figure that out and navigate that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So one, back to originally what you said, I would just say, man, as an encouragement to you, just stay with it and be bold and just do what your heart's calling you to do and just do it. And I think that's one of my things. It's like, if I can set an example for others and it allows others to feel empowered to be bold as well and to see like, oh, Ryan's still doing good, like it's all good, then great. So that would be an encouragement to you.
I appreciate that.
But I would say as far as Christians and money, man, this is such an interesting topic because on one end, I think most people listening to this probably don't have that Christian poverty mindset. I think probably most people listening to this podcast are very entrepreneurial, and they're like, dude, like, let's make money, But for those who are unaware of what we're talking about, like there's a lot of people in the church who believe like, yo, you should be poor.
Yep.
You should deny yourself. Don't seek after money and all these things. And that is totally unbiblical when they say that. And so they will point to that verse and say, well, you can only love one, God or money. Now, here's the thing. Let's like take a big step back. Let's go all the way to the Old Testament. Yep. In the Old Testament, it was clear that God like gave favor to all these people we see in the Old Testament, and many of them with wealth, right? And so you see like Joseph became, the second in command of Egypt and was very wealthy and was able to help his brothers even after they tried to kill him. You see King David had so much wealth. Solomon was the richest and wisest person ever to ever walk the earth. You have just example after example of wealth in the Old Testament. In the New Testament, this is where it gets interesting because people are like, all right, well, like Jesus didn't have money. The disciples were broke and, all this stuff. And it's like, no, they weren't. That's just not even true. Like if you look at the disciples' ministry, right? First off, Peter and all these guys had jobs. They had their own business. Peter was a fisherman, okay? Jesus was a carpenter. Every single one of them had their own business, all right? Second off, it's clear. You see in the Bible multiple instances of these rich business people donating to support this mission and the disciple. Like they traveled deep. It wasn't just 12 disciples traveling. They traveled with like an entourage of people. Like, how do you think when they were like, Jesus says, man, dude, we got 5,000 people. Yeah, I actually never caught this in the Bible until a pastor brought it up to me. But, they had Jesus. They were like, dude, Jesus, there's 5,000 people. They don't say, how are we going to feed them? They say, should we go and buy food? It's like, dude, a broke person wouldn't ask, how should we go buy food for 5,000 people? That wouldn't be that would imply you could actually go do it, right? That's the first thing they asked. And Jesus like, nah, don't worry about it. Like, I got another plan, right? Yep. Judas was stealing money from the treasury. No one noticed. Like, they were never lacking money. There's no instance that recorded in the Bible that they lacked money throughout Jesus's ministry. Paul, most people don't know, he wrote half the New Testament, half of the books. And, he was an entrepreneur. His business was making tents. He literally had a business making tents on the side so that he could do his ministry. Yeah. So my point is with all of this, like, you're just not going to see these examples. Like there are examples of, poor people accepting faith and accepting Jesus. That 100% happens. But this idea that Christians can't have wealth and make money is not biblical. So I think anyone who ever says that, they just don't know their Bible. Yeah. Now, I will say there's one verse that people get twisted. They talk about the rich young ruler. And so the rich young ruler, it's this story where he comes up to Jesus. He's like, hey, dude, like, I want to follow you. And Jesus is like, great. Here's what I want you to do. Go sell off everything you have and follow me. And he's like, but I have so much. I can't follow you. Like I can't give up all this stuff I've earned. I worked so hard to create my brand and my business and all this stuff, right? And he walks away sad because he didn't want to give it up. And they point to that and they're like, see, that's why you can't have money. No, the problem was money was controlling him. And Jesus knew that. Jesus was like, I already know what has your heart. Your heart's not for me. Your heart's for money. I'm going to prove it to you. Go sell it. If you won't sell it, then here we are, right? And I don't even know that Jesus really would have made him sell it, because like we see in the Bible when Abraham goes to sacrifice his son, it's like it was just a test. And, God was never going to make him do it.
No, he about did it.
Yeah. And, the thing is, it's like there's all these examples, but it's just like, it's just not really biblical.
Yeah. It's so powerful. Yeah. And I'm excited to share that with the world because I think it's super powerful. And I want to, take on kind of a smaller version of what you're doing and just share, right, faith and get more entrepreneurs just tithing and doing the right thing and helping people and building the community and, bringing people to God. And I think that, this is stuff that can change your life, right? Like in such a positive way that people don't even know, people are just unfamiliar. I want to pivot and talk about business a little bit.
Yeah.
You've started a lot of companies from what I can tell, right? You had True Books, you had Forever Home. We were talking about Forever Home a little while ago. You had a 200 agent brokerage, right?
I forgot about that. Yeah.
You've, all kinds, Tykes, all kinds of stuff, right?
Yep.
How do you make decisions of, I've also built a lot of different companies. And there have been times in my life where I've done different things and it's taken away from something that I know that I could have scaled even bigger.
Yeah.
How do you figure that out, right? When you're saying yes or no to different opportunities and different ventures that you're going to pursue or shut down, right?
Yep.
What are the things that you think about when making those decisions?
Well, I think now that I'm on the backside of, I don't want to say on the backside because I feel like I'm just getting started too, but I'm on the backside now of, like, I really truly became the entrepreneur I am today in 2018. That was the first full year I devoted to business. I retired from baseball in 2017. So a lot of people don't know that. Like, I'm actually full-time entrepreneur for only like 5+ years.
Yeah.
And, I've started a ton of things and, basically everyone has been profitable until either something happened, right? Either that market didn't work out, maybe there was a flaw that I just didn't understand in the business and then it caused it to fail, or maybe something like Forever Home, which was profitable and fine, just no longer like aligned with what I wanted to do. Maybe something like True Books. I actually sold True Books. You're going for an exit. And so there's just so many things. And it's like, I've realized in business, nothing lasts forever. Like a business always has an end at some point. It's either going to fail, it's either no longer going to be worth your time, or you're going to sell it.
Yeah.
Like the amount of businesses that have been around 100 years is few and far between. So like, number one, I've learned that every business has some kind of ending at some point. Number two, I've learned that, yes, after all the years of doing this and starting lots of different things, it is better to go deep in a business than it is to start other things. And I've come to that conclusion from self-experience, but also from talking to enough really wealthy people. You're just like, at some point you got to hear it from them and you got to experience it. Because if you listen to really wealthy people, they will always tell you that. They'll be like, yeah, dude, like go deep on this one thing. Nobody builds $100 million company while also having all these side hustles. Yeah. It's like always focus on the $100 million company. And so I have realized that over the years. I think what I personally did well was that I was willing to explore and try a lot of things, because I would rather try and do a bunch of stuff and fail or succeed and just learn like, yep, I definitely don't want to be an agent. Yeah. I had 200 agents. Like, that ain't my business. Yeah. All good. And then, like, oh, dude, we've tried and we've thrown lots of massive events. Like I could tell you more about the industry, the event industry, than probably anyone in the entrepreneurial world. Grant Cardone would probably be the only one that could probably know more. Yeah. And I don't want to say that. There's lots of people, but at least at, I guess, this level that we're talking about with people we would know. And so I'm glad I've tried all these things, but now where I find myself is some advice I actually just got from Neil Patel. He was at my last WealthCon, and he told me this a year ago. And Neil, for those who don't know, is a digital marketing expert. And the reason I keep quoting him back is because it's really made an impact on the way I think. He told me a year ago, he goes, Ryan, if you just focused on real estate, you would make way more money. And he's like, look, there's lots of billionaire real estate people. Just do that. And he's like, I have been in the marketing space for 20 years, and that's all I've ever done. He's like, I'm a terrible real estate investor. And by the way, this guy has multiple $20 million plus homes. Yeah. This dude's, he's worth hundreds of millions. Maybe he might be a billionaire. He's not even 40 years old yet. And he's like, you just got to focus on the one thing, dude, and not get the shiny object. And as entrepreneurs, it's tough because we're like, dude, but I can also do this and I can do that. This is an opportunity and that's an opportunity. And so I didn't listen to him. And then a year later, right, I have more perspective. And he's on my show again. He's at WealthCon again. And I'm like, Neil, how's things going for you? He's like, oh, well, we bought this bit and that. And, you know, he's just continuing to freaking be worth hundreds of more millions. And we just got in this deep conversation. He was like, hey, Ryan, you know what I think you should do? You should just focus on real estate. I'm like, this is like deja vu. And he all of a sudden just made me realize that these were his words. He goes, but you have to understand, you can optimize for two things. Mm-hmm. You know, he's like, for me, I optimize for making money. So you could optimize for making money. And if you want to optimize for making money, focus on real estate. But if you have a different purpose you're optimizing for, then take what I said out the window. And he goes, what do you really care about? And he asked me this on my podcast. And I go, honestly, I really care about just bringing people to Jesus. Mm. And he goes, and in kind of a joking way, he goes, well, there's a lot of real estate people that need Jesus. And I was like, okay, like that also makes sense.
Yep.
But he was still like, look, at the end of the day, you would make more money if you talked about real estate. And he goes, but, and this is like where he keeps confusing me. He goes, but to be honest, I actually like your other content. Mm. And I go, that's the point, Neil. Like if I only did real estate, you and I would not be friends because you're not a real estate guy. You're a digital marketing guy. And now we're friends and I get to learn from you and you come at my events. And like, if I only did real estate content, we would not know each other.
Yeah.
And he's like, that's true. And so there's
it's
still not
funny too.
Yeah, there's not like a real answer, but
yeah.
I would say where I land today is that everything I do right now at this point in time has been consolidated into strictly real estate.
Yep.
You know, we're wholesaling, we're flipping, we got that. We got education and events, mainly focused on real estate. And then we just started my lead generation company for real estate investors. And it's like, those are the core three business things that I'm doing. Obviously, we have media, but that's just marketing for everything else.
Yeah. And then education, right?
Yep. Education,
events, stuff like that, you know, which is real estate mostly.
Yeah.
Correct
mostly
me if I'm
real
wrong.
estate. Yeah. Mostly real estate, you know, content. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Talk to me a little bit about the education world, you know, because I mean, that's a whole world, right? I mean, we got into education about a year ago, right? Doing wholesale education.
Yeah.
I never wanted to do education. I actually was against it, you know. I used to be business partners with Cody Sperber way back in the day, right?
Oh, I didn't know that.
And yeah, we were partners. I bought his Lamborghini and all that.
There we go.
Way back in the day, man. But I always had a bad taste in my mouth for education. I just saw behind the curtain way back in the day of a lot of people that weren't practicing what they were preaching. Like they were teaching outdated methodologies. They weren't actually doing it anymore, and they were making all their money in education. And this was like 2017, 18, 19, like, you know, it was a while ago, right? And so I always told myself, I'm like, dude, I don't think I'm ever going to do it. You know, like, and if I am going to do it, I want to get like 5,000 wholesale deals under my belt, right? Like to the point where it's just like indisputable that I know what I'm talking about, right? And so we finally did it. I've done probably 3,000 or 4,000 wholesale deals myself, you know, in my team, in my career, because I've been wholesaling since 2014.
Wow.
And you know, like, with education, right? Like, what's your kind of main focus now? Because is it like teaching people how to flip? Is it going to be more teaching people how to wholesale? Like, where do you see that industry going?
That is a good question. One thing I learned, and I just had this conversation with Steve Trang, is like when you're doing education or any kind of consulting, you really want to niche within the niche. And you know, for Steve, for example, I'm like, dude, you got to do real estate sales training. You cannot just be a generic sales trainer. Like it's too tough to stand out. When I first got on YouTube and when I started doing education, I said, hey, I just want to be the most known house flipper, not wholesaler, not multifamily, not Airbnb. Though I did all those things, I said, I want to be the most known house flipper. So let me make content about flipping houses specifically. And I felt like I did a good job of that. And you know, education was built around that. And my theory is still the same today in that flipping a house is the best thing you can learn because clearly if you learn how to find deals, you can wholesale. That's not hard, you know, but you also learn the hard parts of real estate, which build real wealth, which is how to raise capital and how to do construction. Because if you're ever going to buy rentals, you need to learn to do both those things. So my philosophy has always been learn to flip because everything else you learn because of that. You'll keep rentals. You'll learn how to wholesale. All those things come as a byproduct. So I would say that that's still the core message, even though we have lots of people who only wholesale, because it's all the same crap.
Yeah.
Like nothing really changes on that front.
Underwriting a deal is underwriting a deal.
Yeah.
Buying it right? And, estimating the repair costs.
Yeah, and if you know what you need to buy it for as a flipper or as a buy and hold guy, then you're going to know what you need to sell it for as a wholesaler.
Yeah, I always tell my team, every great flip is also a great wholesale deal.
Yeah.
Like you can't have a great flip opportunity and it not be a great wholesale deal. Mm-hmm. And we struggle with that because our best flip opportunities are our fattest wholesale fees, like potentially, right?
Yep.
And so you always have to look at that and be like, dang, well, I could make 70 grand right now.
Yeah.
Or I can make maybe 90 or 100 grand in 90 days.
Yeah. I would take the 70 all day.
Probably, right? Yeah. And we're learning that the hard way right now. You know?
I've always had a 3-to-1 rule. So if the flip can't make 3-to-1, I take the wholesale. So, if somebody only offered us 10K on a wholesale, but we know the flip's going to make 40K, we'll flip.
Yeah. On high ticket, I'm just curious. I work with a lot of the marketing guys that you've worked with and stuff in the past, the guys that have done, for Jameel and Pace and everybody, right?
Yeah.
They think, I literally just talked to him today, that the wholesale education and real estate education as a whole is eventually going to go down market and more people are going to go to low ticket because they think that high ticket isn't going to convert as well in the coming years. Mm-hmm. What do you think about that?
I think everyone is already like way behind in that. I started doing that 6 months ago.
Yeah.
My main thing I sell is $97 a month now. I don't know. I'm always thinking way ahead of where I think the puck is going. So yeah, no, I agree. I think, this is really like, I'll just tell you how it's going to happen. 10 years ago, information was very valuable because it wasn't freely available. And so big event companies like Fortune Builders and whoever else had all the resources and, they were the gatekeepers. Then things like Bigger Pockets came around. I was like, wow, like I didn't even know what wholesaling was. And these guys are talking about it. That used to be like guard gated. And so that became a thing. Then, let's just say around COVID, you get the rise of influencers really for the first time in this real estate space. And people want to work. And by the way, people wanted to spend money on education. They just didn't want to do it with a Fortune Builder. And by the way, I shouldn't say they didn't want to do it. Fortune Builders made hundreds of millions. Mm-hmm. So like clearly they did just fine. But at that point, that model busted because they were a live events company. Bigger Pockets didn't want to sell you education. Mm-hmm. And so there's this massive gap in the market where it was like, who's going to actually fill the demand? Who's going to teach these people how to do it and be transparent about it and have good content and everything else? And so you saw a lot of guys, like you said, Pace and Jameel, myself, step up to the plate and really fill the demand, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's happened for the past 3-4 years, whatever, right? And now we're at a different point in time where, like all business, you always have to re-innovate. And so what's happened is, now the information is not valuable because it's so freely available everywhere. People have been through courses. People have been through programs. So the question becomes, what's next? And here's really what I believe. And this is literally like, you could just watch what I'm doing and see why. I believe that, okay, when information became less valuable, the next thing became, well, community. Community is going to, you'll get deals, raise money. And don't get me wrong, community is super important. That's why we throw events. I love our community. All that's great. But it's still not that valuable. At the end of the day, people can go join a free Facebook group and like, you got community. They can go to Meetup. Like, you got community. Mm-hmm. So just by the definition of what people are willing to pay for it, it's not that valuable because it's freely available with social media. So it becomes, what is actually valuable? And the only two things I think are valuable that will not become not valuable anytime soon are implementation and services. Mm-hmm. And so for me, I just decided, I was like, you know what? I'm going to just sell what I used to sell for 10 grand for 97 a month. And so now it's 97 a month and we're getting more and more people every single day at a recurring 97 a month. And so like, this has actually flipped the model in a few ways that's really interesting. One is you get to help more people. Mm-hmm. 2 is more people come into your world now. Mm-hmm. 3 is you actually build a business that's more predictable and more valuable because it's recurring revenue. 4 is if that on its own is really good, let's say I could build it to $1 million a month in recurring revenue, which I think I could. I mean, for one, like I said, all those things are now valuable.
Yeah.
Instead of selling 100 people or instead of selling, 1,000 people, 100 people at $10,000.
It's 10,000 people.
10,000 people at $100. Now you have 10,000 people you're helping and who are now talking about how great your stuff is. But on top of that, now you have 10,000 people that may want to buy the other stuff you got.
Yeah.
And so now it's not like when you sold the $10,000 thing, that's the end of the transaction. They've already bought the thing. But when they buy the 100 thing, there's so many other things they can buy. So it's by default a significantly better business model. The problem is it's really hard to do because you got to be a beast at funnels and marketing and self-liquidation and low ticket offers and all these things. Thankfully, I've been, doing it now for the last 3 or 4 months, and like we're now like self-liquidating and adding people. I was looking today, I think we added like 15 people today. And it's like, I'm not even close to what I want to spend. And I think I could add 100 people a day here in the near future.
Yeah.
And it's like, when you start doing those numbers, you're like, holy crap, this is about to get big. This is about to hockey stick. So I'm excited about that. So I think that, yes, low ticket is the way. I think all education ends up going this way, or you go out of business. That's number one. Number two now becomes implementation. And so, yes, I think people will still buy 10,000, 25,000, all these things, but you're going to have to help them implement. You're going to have to, not you personally, but someone on your team is going to have to help handhold them one-on-one, get them going, set them up.
Like done for you.
White glove. Look, they're not going to close for you, but like you are going to have to do so much for them to get them going to be worth that much money. And yeah, even like with done for you, like we will do deals with our students and do profit splits, but even then, like that's still not even that valuable because others will do that too.
Sure.
Right? So if you can have the manpower to actually implement with them, that becomes huge. But then even the bigger opportunity is what I was telling you about before. We just started my newest venture. It's called Lead Kitchen. And so I just basically took what I've been doing in my business for the last 6 months with Facebook marketing and social media marketing. And my students were like, dude, can you teach us how to do it? And I was like, honestly, like I can't. It's just really hard and complex. Like, can you just do it for us? And I'm like, all right, let's do it for 10 of you. So I do it for 10 of them. We get good results. And I'm like, all right, let's launch it to the masses. And so we launch it to the masses where it's now like, you know what, dude, Austin, you want leads in Phoenix or wherever? Just freaking give me your credit card. We're going to pump you all the leads in Phoenix. We'll use my ads, the things we already know works, our landing pages, our everything. And you're going to get the leads literally tomorrow. And they're not going to be marked up like PPL. There's no agency ad spend deal. There's none of that stuff. Like, to me, that's the future.
For sure.
Because you're doing it for them. Lead generation is literally the hardest thing and the number one pain point of every business owner, period. Not even real estate.
Of all the things that you're doing right now, which one gets you the most excited? If you had to narrow it down to one.
Well, I think the ministry stuff, number one. I mean, we just held the big Christian event, which was amazing. But, on the business front, I would say Lead Kitchen.
Yeah.
And it's not just because it's the newest thing, but because I've never... the reason it gets me excited is because I'm actually taking Neil Patel's advice for the first time. And I just started to think about all the really rich people I know. And I was like, man, what's the key ingredient they all have? And it's like, dude, they're all in the world of marketing. Neil Patel manages billions of dollars of ad spend for Apple, for Microsoft, for big Fortune 500 companies. Gary Vee manages ad spend for all these different companies. Cardone is just a master marketer. He's not a sales guy. He's just so good at marketing. And, I've become really good at marketing in different ways unintentionally. I just did it for organic. But then when I took over my own marketing department last year, because I got tired of all these agencies, I was like, dude, like, this is not as hard as I thought it was going to be. Like, figuring out organic content is way harder than figuring out paid. And so, I'm most excited for that because I think that the opportunity is large. It will always serve a need. It will never not be a need. The reason I didn't name it like Wealthy or Pineda or anything is because I do want to sell it one day. I think that it's just like the potential upside is massive. I think the scalability is massive because, like, here's another problem, right? You were talking to agencies. So these agencies that, have been with all your friends and everything else. The problem with agencies is they have to go to you and say, okay, Austin, man, like, let me learn your brand. Tell me about you. What are your products? Like, okay, let's film some ads and let's get your funnels made and let's write out a script and a VSL and a webinar and 8 million things. Dude, you know how hard that is? And then guess what? We don't even know if it's going to work because it's all new. We're going to have to test it for however many months to figure it out. That's freaking really hard. And imagine if you're an agency and you have just 5 clients that you're trying to do it for. I can't even imagine, like, all the people in this room, I've talked to all you guys about brand. If I had to manage your crap, dude, that would be so much work.
Yeah.
Because I'd have to creatively think from you as like the face and your products. And I'm like, holy crap, that is a lot. The beauty with this is all that goes out the window. We already tested it. It's already proven. We know exactly which ad is the winner. We're constantly testing new ones, and it's already my stuff. I don't even need you to film anything. I'm just like, dude, freaking boom. What do you want to spend? All right, cool. Here's the leads.
Yep.
You'll get them today. And then it's just like the simplicity of it is much easier too.
For sure. Talk to me quick about, the organic marketing, right? I've listened to a couple of your podcasts where you've talked about getting on social media being one of the best decisions that you ever made. It opened all of the doors. I think we talked about it in the beginning of the podcast. I mean, I saw you did a Zoom with Tony Robbins. You've sat with Hormozy. Like, all these people come to your events now. Do you think anybody can do that? Like, what, like when you look at social media, opening the doors, I mean, you said it yourself. You've been in business for 5 years, right?
Yeah.
Without social media, like, do you really believe that you could have gotten that many doors to open?
No way.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Can anybody do what you did? Like, for people watching, right? Like, did you have some secret formula, right? Like, did you have to have a lot of money and dump a lot of money into that company? Like, or can anybody who speaks eloquently and has a good message and, like, the whole, and value to provide, obviously, in theory, blow up on social media and open a lot of the same doors or different doors, but, whatever.
So I've thought about this a lot. There is a formula for what I think a social media star could be. And I'll tell you, it's literally, I created this rating system on a scale of 1 to 10 different attributes that makes a social media star. I'll actually have to pull it up on my phone. I was creating it on the plane one day. I was like, what actually does make somebody go viral? And I'll tell you what those 10 are. But as far as for me, I would say before social media, I was a really good real estate investor. I was doing 100+ deals a year. I was successful. I knew what I was talking about. I had started some other businesses too. They weren't nearly blown up to what social media helped them do. But I think I had multiple things that were in my favor. One, first and foremost, was great timing. I recognized the opportunity during COVID, and I said, man, dude, like, this TikTok thing I think is going to be big. I think YouTube is totally underutilized by people, and I just believed in it, and I went all in. And I'll tell you, a lot of real estate guys laughed at me during the first couple of years because, like, why is this fool freaking dancing on TikTok? Why is he doing this? Why is he doing that? And I'm like, I don't know. I think you guys are actually the fools, but we'll see. One of us is going to be the fool.
Yep.
And they were the fool. So nonetheless, I think I had good timing. And look, that was a window. It was a unique point in time where it was literally within the last 15, 20 years, the best time that you could have started. And so I'm just grateful on timing on that front. But as far as what I think the 10 attributes are, I don't even know what I would have called this. 10
attributes to, yeah.
I don't even remember what I called it, but I wrote it down.
Finding it'll be hard, depending on how long you wrote it.
I don't remember what it was.
What were a couple of them?
Let me give you a couple of them. So I said, okay, first off is your track record. Track record matters a lot. A lot of business guys are like, bro, should I get on social media? I'm like, why would anyone listen to you? You haven't done anything and you don't know anything. And they get offended. And they're like, yeah, but what if I interview people like you? And I'm like, great, you're a talk show host. And I go, you could be a talk show host, but like nobody's going to listen to you about your own advice because you haven't done anything. You could be a host though. You could be like one of these kids who ask these guys in their Lambos, what they do for a living.
Yep.
And you'll get a lot of views. What you are is a creator, which is great. Your actual business would be media, but you're not a business entrepreneur guy expert. You just happen to find these guys. So I think your track record first and foremost matters. And that's where most people can't do it because their track record sucks. Very few people have done cool things. So that's one. Two would be, how well you speak. That is definitely a factor. How well can you communicate with people? How are your words received? Can you speak with great tonality? All those things. Can you be engaging? Can you be charismatic? So I think that matters. Three would be your creativity, right? Like social media is extremely creative. How well you can actually think of new ideas and topics. Like most people get burned out. They're like, what the heck do I talk about today? So your creativity matters. Four would be your Rolodex. How big is your network? How many people can you interview? How many people can you collaborate with? That matters a lot. Five would be, this is a big one, the it factor. This is literally just, you got it or you don't. And I don't even know how to quantify it. But like when people have the it factor, you're like, bro, they just got it.
Yep.
And I think the it factor can be a number of things. I think it could be how you look. I think it could be maybe you're just super funny. Maybe you just have something unique about you, right? Like when I think about a guy like Hormozy, like you're talking about, his it factor is like, this dude is super jacked and just super different with how he talks and speaks. There's really no one like him. When I think about other really famous guys, Andy Elliott speaking at WealthCon, like, dude, like how many Andys are there? That's just like, this guy is just so unique in what he does. Like you can't copy it. I think a guy like PBD is just, he just is who he is, dude. He's so articulate. He's so smart. You're just not gonna, he just has it. And he's had it for 10 years. He's been doing valuetainment for 10 years, well before he was super rich.
Sure.
Another guy I was just watching recently that I really enjoy, and I'm like, dude, you can't even copy that. There's a guy, his name's Myron Golden. And he teaches coaches how to make offers and sell products online and stuff. He's like the OG. And he's also super faith-based. And so I resonate with him on the faith-based side. But this dude will start spitting off things from the Bible. I'm like, holy crap, how's this guy know all this stuff? And he finds ways to merge it with business. And like, I'm like, wow, it just can't be taught.
Yeah.
So the it factor is something that's just like, you got it or you don't. LeBron is 6'8", freaking can jump, run, and do everything better than you, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Sure.
So that's a factor. Some other factors of social media would be your capital. Like you said, like, dude, you got to have resource to do this. So how much capital are you willing to do? I think your patience matters. How much time are you willing to give this thing? Because most people quit too soon. I would say your desire to do it, right? Because if you just want to do it and you're like, I think it's going to make a lot of money for my brand. Like, no, you got to really actually love it, dude. Media is, you got to love doing it. Man, I actually named a lot more than I thought. So that's probably like 8 of them.
It might have been, yeah. There was definitely 8 of them. And I think I agree with all 8 or however many you just said.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I think those are amazing. So what's your vision now with media? Pineda Media, your own media, because I knew at one point, or maybe you still are, helping other clients do their media and stuff too. Where do you see that going? You have almost 400K on YouTube. Yeah. You're big on Instagram, TikTok, right? Is it just more podcasts? Is it, where do you want to go?
Well, I think that the media landscape's always changing. And so to be a great marketer and to be great, and stay relevant, you have to constantly be watching and anticipating where the puck's going. And so like, if I was to look at my career on media since 2020, I could walk you through how it played out. Like in 2020, it was all about TikTok and it was all about 10-minute YouTube videos. And that's what was popular then. So we do it. 2021 comes around, Reels come out. And so those who were good at TikTok blew up on Instagram because Reels were the same thing. And so I'm still doing the same kind of YouTubes. I also started a podcast in 21 because I kind of thought that podcasting was going to be bigger than people realized. And so I started doing a podcast. 22 happens. kind of same thing, doing a bunch of reels. Reels are popping off, focused on the podcast, still making 10-minute, 15-minute videos. 23, at the beginning of 23, I decide, I'm like, I'm going all in on podcast. I'm not even doing a 10-minute video anymore. Podcast is the way to go. I'm 1,000% certain of it. And the reason was I just had seen logically that more watch time is all that matters.
Yep.
Every platform just wants you to stay on. The easiest way to get somebody to watch for a long time, freaking make the video really long. And for entrepreneurs, you just think about it and it's like, I think about what do I consume? What do the people I'm selling to consume? And they listen to podcasts, man. We're busy people. It's like we can throw on a podcast while we're working out, while we're driving, we're on an airplane. You don't really do that with other forms of content. And I just realized too that the way you build trust is through spending time together. And the best way to spend time is long form content. So, I just went all in on podcast. I shut off every short form, well, not short form. I still did TikTok and stuff, but like I shut down any 10-minute videos, all that, and just only did podcasts. And that was actually a really controversial thing for my team and everyone because they're like, dude, the podcast gets less views and all this stuff. And I'm like, guys, you don't get it. Like, not every view is created equal. If I get 3,000 views on 2 hours versus 5,000 views on 10 minutes, the amount of minutes spent with me was significantly higher on the 2 hours. And so over time, the channel adjusted and became accustomed to longer and, all those things happened. And it's funny now because now that's, it's been a year and a half since that decision. I don't believe anything has changed. But, Hormozy recently did something and he was like, yeah, I'm going basically all long form and training and, stuff. And I'm like, bro, I've been saying that for forever, because if you would have just looked at his channel, you would have saw the same thing I saw of like the long form actually does way better.
Yep.
And it may not pop off from the beginning, but it just keeps getting views months later. And so, long story short, where do things stand in 24? I'm still doing podcasts. I'm still doing trainings. What I am trying to crack the code on now is getting better retention within the first minute. And so I've been really analyzing what the beginning of a show should look like and making sure that that's really dialed in with the title, the thumbnail, the intro, and making sure they all connect to each other because I think that that's like the biggest thing we suck at. Yeah.
Well, I think you're really good. I mean, obviously, we're always trying to get better, right?
Yeah.
But comparatively to a lot of people out there, I mean, you're obviously crushing it, And I completely agree. I think people have to make a decision. Do you want to be the Graham Stephan or the Andre Geek, and all of your money is just ad revenue, right? Or are you monetizing eyeballs in other ways? Are you raising capital? Are you selling products? Like because. I mean, I've known Graham forever, right? I started following Graham and hung out with him, almost 10 years ago. And yeah, he crushes. He probably makes $500,000 a month YouTube ad revenue, right? But that's really his main source of income. Now he has the coffee and all of that, right?
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like, you look at a guy like Grant Cardone, where it's like, he doesn't care about YouTube ad revenue.
Yeah.
He just wants eyeballs like you, right? To take those eyeballs, build a relationship with them and get them, funnel them somewhere else.
Yeah.
Right?
And I would even say, I'm friends with all those guys and they all live in Vegas with me. And so it's like, ad revenue is like way down. Like they're not getting the deals and all the things they used to get. And I would say like with Graham and Andre, like I said, they're both friends, but they're not entrepreneurial. They are true content creators who just like creating content. They have no desire to run a business. And that's okay. But the thing is, the moment they stop making content, it is what it is. Like all their revenue will be gone. And so, they are pure. I would consider them to be like just like you would see any media personality on TV, they're like a Stephen A. Smith. They're like whatever. Right. And it's just like, they're just a media personality.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I don't want to keep you too much longer. So just a couple more questions here. One thing controversial that I've heard you say that I've seen a lot of, people talk about is that the amount of time and the times that you work and then the other times that you give with family and golf and faith and all of that, right?
Yeah.
Like I've seen pieces of content that you've made where it's like, hey, I golf every week, right?
Yeah.
On like Friday, I believe it is.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
Today on Tuesday.
Yeah,
Yep.
today on Tuesday.
Yep.
Right? You get to the office at 9 or 10. You're not there at 5 a.m. like grinding it out anymore,
Yeah.
right? Talk to me about that. What does an average day look like for Ryan Pineda, and how are you able to pull that off where so many other entrepreneurs don't believe that they can? Is every other entrepreneur just stuck in too many mundane meetings that they shouldn't be in? Like, how are you able to figure it out?
I think that's part of it, the second half. Typical day, just to give reference, I wake up at 5:30 pretty much every day. My kids freaking now wake up with me. My 10-month-old, my daughter, they all wake up early too. And so they all just hang out while I do my morning routine. And so, I spend an hour in the Word, praying, reading my Bible, memorizing scripture, journaling. I do all that. Then spend an hour working out, go get a shower, get ready for the day. Might hit a couple golf balls in the simulator if I can, but I'm usually at the office at 9 o'clock. From 9 to 5, like literally, I'm a machine, dude. Like I don't waste any time at all. You won't catch me BSing, just doing nothing. Like even if my schedule doesn't show anything, like I already know like what the most important task I need to be doing is. So, I just do that. And, to be honest, the last, let's just say, I don't know, 6 months or so, I haven't been golfing as much. Like I've actually been lucky in that my wife picked up golf recently. And so now like she's willing to golf with me on the weekends. Yep. And so now I'm like, okay, so I'll go golf with my wife and we'll have fun. We'll bring the kids out there because we live on a course and like, it's great. So I'm like, okay, well now that I get to golf on the weekends, like I'll go and, get some more work done Friday. Cause I like to work. It's not that I don't like to work.
Yeah.
I just like all the other things in my life more. And so by getting home at 5, I'm able to spend time with my kids, have dinner, bathe them, put them to bed, hang out with my wife, watch Netflix, like do normal things. And then on the weekends, I don't go to work, I still wake up early. I don't work out on the weekends, but wake up early, just literally hang out all weekend, whatever we want to do as a family. We go to church on Sunday, but I really believe that schedule has done two things for me. One is because my priorities are in line, I'm not like deficient in other things, right? Because when you start neglecting faith, that, dude, it's going to catch up to you. You're going to be deficient and you're not going to even know why you're messed up. And I think a lot of people probably watching this might be like, yeah, dude, if something feels off, it's probably your relationship with God. 2 would be health. Like, you and I are in shape, but it's like a lot of people aren't. And they're like, man, why do I feel like crap every day? It's like, bro, if you are way out of shape, I'm going to destroy you in whatever we do. Like, it's just is what it is. So like, I'm never not in shape. 3 would be, my marriage is good. My relationship with my kids is good because I actually put effort into it. So now if I'm at the office, I'm not worried about if my wife's pissed at me. I'm not worried about like having to come home to an argument and this other stuff. Don't get me like, we're not perfect by any means, but like I have 10% of the problems that maybe other couples have because of the intentionality behind the schedule. And so you start thinking about that and it's like, okay, if I don't have any of those bottlenecks that others have and we work 8 hours together each, like hour for hour, there's just no way you're going to like be as efficient if you got bad health, if you got bad faith, if you're thinking about your wife and the problems going on. Like it's just, you're not going to be as good. And so I think that schedule allows me to work with pure efficiency, 100%, and that. But I think the second thing it does is it forces me to be a better business owner because by placing limitations on myself, Craig Rochelle, he's a pastor out in Oklahoma. He actually said something really insightful I never heard before. He goes, hey, limitation is the birth of innovation. And it's true because if you had all the money in the world, all the time in the world, you wouldn't innovate and to figure out what's the best way to do something. You'd be like, oh yeah, I mean like, oh, we got all day to do this, then give me all day and I'll do it. Oh, we got all the money, like freaking buy this and this and this, and who cares? But if you have a limitation, time-wise, financial-wise, everything else, you are forced to innovate to come up with a solution or else it's not going to happen. And so I've realized that if I limit myself to this schedule, this time, and everything else, but my goals are still this, I have to innovate and do things differently. And if I don't, it won't happen because I have two choices: either work more in order to reach my goal or innovate or don't hit my goal. So those are the only three choices. And so I choose to figure out, how do I innovate within this confines and get the result I want.
In order to do that, you have to have an incredible team too, I would imagine.
1,000%. Innovation comes from team, new ideas, new offers, everything.
So there when you're not there, you have a team, you can rely on your team, your partners to be making it happen.
Yeah. I'm here today with you guys in Phoenix. I'm about to go golf, but man, I was looking on the phone. They still got some deals. They're still freaking making sales. They're, the content's still going out.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I won't keep you any longer. I know you got to go golf. I could sit here with you for a couple of hours, by the way.
Yeah.
So we'll do it again eventually.
Yeah.
For sure, now that we're connected. The last thing I'll ask you is just, if you were talking to the whole world right now, the whole world could hear you. One thing you've learned in your life, one thing that you believe that if everybody on the planet could implement that thing, or you would want them to hear that thing, what would that thing be?
They need Jesus. I mean, that's the thing. It sounds, I don't want to say it sounds dumb. It sounds like simple. It's like, oh, well, of course he's going to say it. No, but I'm like, no, I'm dead serious that people don't realize, if they don't have faith, what they are missing out on. It'd be like when you first start, and this is like a very bad example, but before you knew what wholesaling was, like, you're like, man, dude, how am I going to make money and all that? And then you learn how simple wholesaling, you're like, it's really that easy. Like, you just get a contract and you find a buyer and you can make money. And you're like, yeah, it's that easy. And you're like, I don't believe it. Like, there's what else is the catch? And you're like, no, seriously, it's like, just do that. And that's really what faith is. It's like, dude, if I told you that all the depression, the anxiety, and everything that you're going through could be gone with just faith. If I told you that, your marriage could be healed, that anything could be restored with just faith, it's hard to believe, but it's true. And it's really that simple. And it's like, dude, for anyone watching this, I've just seen too many things in my life now to know that I could give you, hey, work harder and get more efficient and whatever. But it's like, bro, that's like doing a disservice to everyone listening. It's truly, if you have Jesus, everything else takes care of itself.
If somebody watching wants to come to your next faith conference that you're doing, or they want to join a Bible study of yours, who do they reach out to?
Yeah. Go to wealthykingdom.com. Everything we do there is free. It's all nonprofit. You can get plugged into a Bible study with other entrepreneurs. You do not have to be a believer. You can just hang out with cool people in your area, get to understand, get around people who are trying to, grow in faith, who are trying to build a business and everything else.
I love it. I appreciate you being on the show, man. We'll do it again for sure next time.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you, man.
Okay, thank you. Hey, if you're still watching, do me a huge favor. Go check out all of Ryan's information down below. Appreciate you watching, and we'll see you in the next one.